It's live. Oh my gosh, it's live. Hi everyone. How's everyone doing? Welcome to Small Things Con. Hi, Harry Potter Alliance. um, so I don't know if you guys have been to any of the other events yet, but we've had a couple of different ones. Have any of you guys been to any of the other panels? I know yesterday they were doing Spider-Verse Watch Party. That looked like a lot of fun. I wish I could have joined that one. Such a good movie. Um, so my name is Sam, and I am one of the facilitators with our Wizard Activist School. So if you guys aren't familiar with, first of all, the Harry Potter Alliance, what we do is we work to turn fans into heroes through the power of storytelling and magic, using people's passion for fandom to make real world change. Super helpful in a time like now when circumstances have gotten pretty extreme. And the Wizard Activist School is part of our education department. And we have these modules online, which you can do. They're each about, I want to say, like 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes for some of them. And they're nice bite-sized chunks of activism training that you can do from home. So that might be a nice thing to do during this time. And we're going to be going over some curriculum for one of our modules today. So we're going to be talking about goal setting. And I'm curious to know if any of you guys have set any goals for yourself during this time, and if so, what those goals are. And feel free to put it in the chat. We can talk about some of those. And while you guys are thinking about some of the goals that you have for yourselves, I also want to talk really quickly about our Granger 2020 campaign. So right now, Harry Potter Alliance, we are not trying to elect Hermione Granger to be president, although that would be awesome if we could. But since we can't, we're going to set a more realistic goal for ourselves, and we're focusing on getting people educated, getting out the vote, letting people imagine the kind of future that they want. So we had some Leap Day Imagining events happening around the globe, and around the country. We have a couple different circles. If you're interested in starting a circle, that is definitely something you should do. Oh, nice. I see some of these great goals coming in. But yeah, so if you guys have any extra time or a little bit of extra change, if you want to help donate to our Granger 2020 campaign, we've got the link down there. And it would be great to add to that support and make sure that we're able to make the kind of change that we want to see in the world. So, getting back to goal setting. So I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the SMART goal format before, but it's an acronym for helping us narrow down the kinds of goals that we want to make and making them more attainable, more bite-sized, a little bit easier to achieve and not as overwhelming or general. So getting really specific with what we want and figuring out the best way to get there. So I'm going to look at some of the goals you guys have written already. Okay, awesome. Finishing 2 books during this time. Ooh, that's a good goal. That's a big goal. I don't know if I could finish a book ever. I'm not a great writer. Exercising 20 minutes a day. Nice. Working on your novel and reading more books. Cool, cool. So these are all really awesome goals. And we're going to go through. Oh, hi, Nina. My friend Nina's here. We're going to go through some of these goals later and check back in with them. But first, I want to go through our SMART goal format. So let's look at our presentation here. So with SMART goals, we want to look at making something specific. We're going to state exactly what we want to do. So focusing less on big general goals and more on like how we can narrow it into the tiny pieces that make up that bigger goal. So I want to do an example as we're going through these of some magical world examples. So let's say, hypothetically, you're Ginny Weasley, and your goal is to be the best pro Quidditch player in the world. and you were on slate to play the Quidditch World Cup. You were ready to win. You wanted to be the number one player, number one chaser in the world. And then Dragonpox hits, and you aren't able to go to practice. The match is canceled. How can you adjust your goal given these new circumstances and get specific about what that goal could be? So let's see. I'm going to let some of you guys in the chat go ahead and comment and see if you were Ginny Weasley, how could you make your goal specific? Kill the pox. Okay, that's a great goal. But I'm thinking specifically like with playing Quidditch, and if you can't go to practice, what's a way that you could adjust? And if you have to stay at home, how could you adjust to stay on top of that goal or adjust that goal for the new circumstances? Set a training goal. Yes, I love it, Zoe. Hi, Zoe. Yes, you can set a training goal for yourself. That's a great example. So let's keep going through this acronym, and I think that's going to help us a little bit more as well. So you need to make a goal also that's measurable. Quantifying the goal can help a lot. So instead of a more general goal, if you make it measurable, like a yes or no, either you did it or you didn't, or how many times, how many minutes, for how long you're going to practice, that kind of thing. So yeah, so if you wanted to practice strategy, then perhaps you could figure out a way to measure that and then break it down into tiny chunks. Fly a set number of laps around the house. Great. Yes, that could totally work. So if you wanted to fly, say, 5 times around the house, or maybe you wanted to do 10 minutes a day on your broomstick, switching off every other day, doing drills with your quaffle, researching top players and their tactics. That's awesome. Yeah. And maybe to make that more measurable too, you could research one player a day and find 3 tactics that they use and write those down. Awesome. These are great. I love what you guys are coming up with so far. So making a goal that is attainable as well is also important. So I've never run a marathon before. So I think if I were to start out with a goal, I probably wouldn't say run a marathon. That might be a little bit too much to start with for me. So maybe for me, my shorter term goal would first be run 1 mile without stopping, making it a little more attainable. So again, going back to the Ginny Weasley example, to make that more attainable, if you can't be winning the Quidditch World Cup this year, how can you make a goal that is a little bit more attainable that you're working towards? All right, and while you guys are thinking about that one, I'm going to go to the next part, relevant. So obviously, if you are like, you know what, I think I'm going to try every Bertie Bott flavored bean, and that's going to help me become a better Quidditch player. Maybe not so much. Although eating every Bertie Bott flavored bean could be a goal for sure, it might not be super relevant to your specific focus on Quidditch. Ooh, I have a great question from Abby. Okay, so you struggle with making attainable goals for yourself. Do you have any tips for things that seem unaccomplishable, like completing a 14-page list, which you add to every day? Oh, Abby. I relate to this a lot. So yes, I would say if you can break things up into a daily calendar or an hourly schedule, I find that really helpful. For me, I work in theater a lot as well. So looking at memorizing a whole play's worth of lines is really overwhelming for me. So I break that into chunks. I will work 1 hour a day or one scene at a time. And I like to spread it out over a couple of days. And I also like to schedule breaks for myself. I find that really helpful, and to specify what those breaks are going to look like so that I don't get distracted. So if you're working on a 14-page list, I would say go through and see what the priorities are, list the priorities, and maybe find a way to chip at it either through time limits to make it a little bit more quantifiable, or say you're going to do one task per day or one task per week if that's also overwhelming. I hope that helps. Might you get the BirdieBot sponsor endorsement though? That's true. Yes. Yeah. Ginny Weasley could totally score the BirdieBot's endorsement eating all the flavor beans. But getting that sponsorship would probably then have to be the goal, as opposed to keeping up on your physical conditioning as a Quidditch player, being the more specific goal. All right. And timed, which we just discussed a little bit with Abby's example, but giving yourself a due date is pretty key. I know that for myself, I'm usually not as motivated to do things unless I set that goal for myself. So let's say, for example, you're trying to get a new job at the ministry. It might be more helpful, instead of setting that as your goal, to say, by Monday, I'm going to write my cover letter for the position. Giving yourself that due date is really helpful. So again, going back to Ginny Weasley, how could Ginny give herself a due date for some of her goals towards working on that professional Quidditch skill during this time? All right, great. And while you guys are thinking about that, I want to go through and look at some of the goals that you set for yourselves earlier. So let's see. So finishing 2 books during this time, awesome and ambitious goals. I love it. What's a way that you could break that into maybe more bite-sized chunks during this time? Love what's happening in the chat here. Okay, great. So some people are suggesting apps. You can get some apps to work. Is it like note cards or scheduling? Oh, I see. To make the long list a little bit more manageable, you can break it down into like individual note cards. That's pretty cool. Great. Yes. So going back to the book question. So if you're working on 2 books, reading 2 chapters a day, yeah, totally. That's a great way to break it up. And that makes it nice and measurable and attainable as well. And then if you end up reading more than 2 chapters, awesome. But giving yourself that specific, like quantified goal, I think is really helpful. And making it daily too. That can help with having a schedule as well during a time when time has lost meaning for some of us. Your goal is to learn goal setting. Well, you're doing a really good job by attending this online convention already. All right, let's go back to one of the other goals from before. Okay, yes, exercising 20 minutes a day, that's fantastic. That's already measurable. You've got the due date in there by making it daily for yourself. That's fantastic. So I think maybe the only other thing I would add to that is if you want to like switch up workout routines, maybe if you wanted to get more specific with like Mondays, I work on ab strength by watching this YouTube workout and going along with that. On Tuesdays, I work on flexibility for 20 minutes. All right. Awesome. Ooh, I see planning to use Camp NaNoWriMo in April to edit 6 short stories by the end of the month. That's awesome. Cool. That's great. Gives yourself a really solid due date too. That's one of the things I love about NaNoWriMo in general. So yeah, and especially with short stories too, that already like makes it nice and easy to break it up into smaller bits for yourself too. If you wanted to do like 2 short stories per week or something like that. Okay. Let's see, we've got another one up here. Nina's goal is to run 3 times per week. Yes, mine too. My friend Nina and I decided that we were going to virtually train together for a half marathon, and we wrote out a little training schedule. So I'm excited to do that. Okay, so Tomes and Tunes has a goal to work on your novel and read more books. Awesome. So if there's a way that you wanted to add in the comments, a way to make that a little bit more following the SMART acronym and seeing if there's a way to give yourself a due date or quantify that and make it a little more measurable. I think that at least for me, because like general goals, I kind of lose my way a little bit. If you quantify that, I think that might be helpful. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, virtual training is going to be a lot of fun. We're basically just going to text each other and make sure that we're holding each other accountable to our training schedule, which is something that I know I need. I need an accountability partner. Otherwise, it's like really easy for me to be like, or maybe I'll just like keep watching Parks and Rec instead. Abby asks, how do you keep yourself calm and positive when you don't reach your goal? That's a good question. For me, changing the goal, maybe the goal needs to change and it wasn't quite working, or maybe circumstances changed and it was harder to get to it. I think it's not a problem if you need to move your due date or break it into even smaller chunks. I would say if you keep the focus more on like, how do we keep this goal something that is attainable for me, then shifting how you reach that goal becomes the focus more so than self-blame. At least it does for me. Yeah, self-shaming is real for sure. And I think, yeah, just the main thing is to shift that focus if you can. Think like, instead of it being various reasons that you could blame yourself for it not getting done, just think about like, maybe I set this goal in a way that isn't actually as attainable given my current circumstances and I need to adjust. Okay. Great. And then I see a couple, I think there was one more goal up here. So let me scroll up. Okay. Do you want to dye your hair and learn to use chopsticks? Yes, Tosh. Love it. So maybe if you wanted to make that more quantifiable or give yourself a due date to dye your hair, I don't know if you need that extra incentive to do it, but you could be like, oh, by Sunday, my hair will be red. And learning to use chopsticks, yeah. If you've never used chopsticks before, the way that I learned to use chopsticks was by force, which basically what I mean by that is I had no other option because I was traveling in Japan and chopsticks is all that they provided. So I think if you only let yourself use chopsticks for a week, perhaps that might be useful towards your goal. All right. Eating ramen every day. Yeah, that can also be helpful towards using chopsticks. Okay. Gonna scroll back up. You guys have so many goals. I love it. I'm doing a lot of scrolling, so forgive the slower pace. Okay. The Harry Potter Alliance has a goal to have a better morning routine. Awesome. So that's a great goal. That's a goal I have for myself as well. For me, the way that I have used the SMART goal format towards that specific goal is making sure that I have a specific wake up time. So wake up at 8 a.m. every day, period. Take a hot shower every morning for at least 15 minutes. For me, hot, long showers are like my number one self care coping mechanism. So that's helpful for me for waking up. And then if you were to write down and specify that routine, if you want to write down what that would look like, I would love to take a look at that and we can see how it measures up with the SMART goal. Okay. working on your novel and reading more books. I think we got to that one. Great. Okay, I'm going to scroll back down. How do you feel about giving yourself rewards for meeting your goals? Yes. So I really like doing that. For me, that's a big motivator. Things that motivate me to complete a task are like snacks, or another thing would be like taking a long hot shower as a break. Giving yourself those goals, I think, are really helpful. I'm curious to know the times that it doesn't work for you. If you can tell me a little bit more about that, and like when it doesn't work for you, how are you setting it up for yourself? Is it different than how you're setting it up for yourself when it does work for you? Or maybe it just like depends on the day too, because sometimes we're coming at it from a different place emotionally. Aw, I love you too, Sullivan. I have so many lovely people popping in on this chat. Yeah, I think if you give yourself like a tiny measurable reward that maybe you can pack into a certain time frame as well, maybe if you use the SMART goal format for your rewards as well, that could be helpful. I know that things like for me, like watching an episode of television is never going to work as a reward because it's way too easy to start binging instead and lose focus. Okay. Sometimes I complete the goal, but forgot I bought the thing or promised it to myself. Okay. So I think it seems to me what you're saying is that you sometimes lose track of the reward or forget to give it to yourself. It can be nice to put it in your Google Calendar, and it can feel really good. Just like put in your Google Calendar, treat self to froyo on Friday, or make myself a chai latte at 4 p.m. I think that could be a nice way to help remind yourself. Started a sticker book for yourself as a reward system. That's a great reward system. Stickers are always motivating, no matter how old you are, and no one can change my mind. Okay, great. I think these are all awesome. Okay, so really quickly, let's get back to this presentation. So obviously the circumstances in our world have changed a lot, and that's going to affect the goals that we have and how we need to move forward. So what next? I would say if you had goals that had to shift, things got canceled, things got moved, it's harder to do the kind of work that you do with these new circumstances. First thing to do is take a breath and focus on your breath. For me, I really like to do meditation. You can do 10 minutes a day. There's a couple different apps that do it. Or you can just like literally take a big breath when you start your day and reassess. So look at your goals and see if there's a way that you can reframe them for the current circumstances in a way that'll work, like with the Ginny Weasley example. You can track your progress. So one way that you can track your progress is by making a list, crossing things off the list. Lists are great. If you're less of a list person, then for me, like putting reminders in Google Calendar are great as well. And then evolving those goals. So maybe there's a way that you can grow your goal, or maybe a way that the limitations can actually be helpful towards you achieving your goal. And maybe it'll help you re-articulate your goal and get more specific with it as well. And then we've got the link there for the Wizard Activist School module. So if one of your goals is to become a Wizard Activist, you can start on those modules whenever you want. Okay. Pennies in a jar is a great reward system as well. I love that. Zoe got a physical planner and it changed Zoe's life. I love that. Yeah, physical planners are great. Can I show my mustache dog? Absolutely. Okay. I have to wake her up because she's literally the sleepiest dog I've ever met. Let me get her. Come here, Queenie. Okay. One of my goals is to cuddle with this munchkin for 10 minutes a day every day. This is Gwen. Gwen is for sure a Hufflepuff. She likes snacks and naps and sometimes kisses. And that's about it. She's the most apathetic face right now. She's really grumpy that I woke her up. Sorry, Gwen. I'm sorry. Yeah, she's the best. That's pretty much all I have for you guys. Do you have any additional questions? Her face says it all. That's true. It does. You're welcome, Harry Potter Lion. All right, cool. Okay, so I see a comment here. Just started a to-do list and pinned it. Yay! Awesome, Phoenix. That makes me really happy. I'm glad that the stream is helping you out with working towards those goals. Yeah. And sometimes setting that specific time frame is really helpful too. Like if you're like, I need to lay in bed until 11 a.m. and then from 11 to 12 I'll work on my list, then that's great too. Like scheduling in that downtime can be really helpful also. Yes. Yeah, good luck to everyone with the SMART goals. Procrastinating on your writing by watching the stream instead. Awesome. You know what? Sometimes procrastination can be a goal too. Great. Okay. Thank you guys so much. That's all I have for you. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope you guys stay safe and healthy. Great.